Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fish and shrimp keepers of all ages, welcome to Wild Fish Tanks Live. I hope I can hear you. Going to pay a little more attention to the chat tonight, especially to start. Thank you for joining us. Tonight we're going to be talking about how to get the best deals on fish tanks and aquariums. If you guys have been following me for a while, you know that is the reason why I've been able to build the fish cave as big as it is. Audio, yes. Okay, thank you, Candy. Big shout out to everyone here early. Candy, Liz, One Fish, Two Fish, Chewy, Jay Adams. I think I saw Mike Fish Tank Barn, Joe Coffee. Thank you guys for joining us. Michael, Bay Area Aquatics. Joe Coffee, no, we can't hear you. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I'm not sure. We're gonna go through a bunch of things today. I'm gonna take some more breaks and kind of do a little question and answer section, kind of after every single little section here that I've bullet pointed out. We're gonna talk about different places that I like to get tanks, some more than others. We're gonna talk about what to look for when you're looking at a used tank. We're gonna look at what to be concerned with, whether it's a tank or certain products, some of the things that I kind of stray away from, and how to get the advantage. And then also talk a little bit about, are we keeping this stuff, are we flipping it, a little mix of both. So we'll get into all that, and please feel free to send questions at me. I'm going to be getting to them as often as I can, and please be sure to at me at Wild Fish Tanks. Keep an eye on the chat, and I will be able to see it easier and respond to you. Want to mention a big thank you. We've reached 20,000 strong for the Fish Cave crew. So a little later in the live stream, we're going to be giving away some merch. I think I'm going to give away 2 t-shirts, just like this one. It doesn't have to be this color, but we have Wild Fish Tank merch. So we're going to be giving away 2 t-shirts. You don't have to be present tonight to win. I'm going to explain that a little later, but there'll be 2 opportunities to win. You don't have to be present. We're actually going to be announcing the winner on the next live stream, and it's going to be international. I've done giveaways in the past. It's been a while, and I haven't done an international one, give away some fish and stuff like that, so I've got to keep it in the U.S., but I want to, open it up to the whole world. So we're going to do international. So stay tuned for that. But let's get started in terms of some of the places that I like to find the deals, and some of the places that I don't like to find deals. My number one place, and you probably heard about it, it's Craigslist. Craigslist, to me, it's old. Everyone knows about it, but it's still the number one place that I find the best deals. And the reason is because you have an opportunity to find stuff for free, and you can set up, I'm not going to go into it tonight, but you can set up alerts that you will get if someone lists something for free. So there's a potential to get free stuff, which is always nice. But even though the free stuff tends to be far and few between, there's good deals in terms of prices. Now, all these places that I'm going to mention have tanks that are 10 gallons listed for $100, $200, a 55-gallon setup for $800, just like crazy astronomical prices. Obviously, we're going to stray away from those. You're going to run into that no matter where you're looking at tanks. However, Craigslist, I find, has a good selection. Not always, not every time you're looking, and we're going to get into that in a little bit, because you have to be patient, you have to be consistent. But Craigslist, if you're consistent, you will find deals. Not every day, not even every week, but you will find good deals on Craigslist. The next one is OfferUp. To me, that's my favorite app. There's a bunch of apps out there. You have Let Go. There's some smaller ones, like 5 Mile, I think is one, and online garage sale, yard sale. I've tried a few. My thinking was that on some of the less popular ones, there would not be as much demand. So even though there's a little bit of supply, only maybe a fraction of the listings, potentially no one will be looking. However, I've spent probably a year playing around with some of the lower end apps, or not as popular apps, to really no avail. So I stick with OfferUp, and then Let Go is kind of like that backup. Although I like OfferUp, I think the app functionality is better, and you see more deals. Yeah, Liz, check out OfferUp. I feel like it's a close second to Craigslist in my opinion. Another one is going to be Facebook. Now, I'm not a huge user of Facebook. If you guys are familiar with the channel, we have the YouTube here. I have an Instagram. I do have a Facebook. I really don't kind of use it at all. I have it just to have it. I do look for deals on Facebook occasionally, but it can be hit or miss in my opinion. I have friends that utilize it more often, but in my opinion, Craigslist and OfferUp are superior to Facebook. I have done, let's see here, question from Joe Coffey. I've done well in my area with Let Go, little to no competition. Okay, and that's a really good point. I mentioned these things, and this is in Orlando and Central Florida. Depending on where you're at, you may have better success with some of these apps. So definitely, by all means, just like in fish keeping, it's important to try it out for yourself. Try it out for yourself. Use these apps for yourself. Potentially, Craigslist is crap in your area, and Let Go is king. But that makes sense in terms of not a lot of competition. I find Mr. B says, "Hey, got no wrench. Does that mean I can act up? I can throw you a wrench, man. Is that what's going to keep you in check?" But I think it's a great point that there's less competition. So even though there might not be as many listings on Let Go in your area, a lot less competition. Wild Hilton says, I caught some wild bluefin keelyfish and I absolutely love them. I have a deformed one that is my favorite. Do you have any advice for breeding the bluefins? Yeah, I'll answer that question real quick because I'm a native wild fish guy. My buddy chokes out a 5 or 10 gallon with some Java moss or some guppy grass and just condition them well with live foods, and they'll breed for you like crazy. Make sure you have a male and a female. Put a lot of Java moss or a guppy grass. They are egg spawners, and they shouldn't predate on their fry too much, especially if you really have it choked out with guppy grass and or Java moss, something like that. I want to talk about the Reddit AquaSwap. It's another great place to pick up deals. Now, this is a specialized one. You're not going to find too many free things for sale or giving away on Reddit AquaSwap. And once again, Reddit AquaSwap is going to be kind of a global situation, mostly in the U.S., but it's harder to pinpoint, your area, like Orlando for me. That being said, Reddit AquaSwap it's like shooting fish in a barrel because they're all fish nerds, right? So Craigslist got everything, OfferUp has everything. Reddit AquaSwap literally has fish stuff. Now, I think it's not the greatest for tanks because a lot of the listings you'll see are not from your area per se, but Reddit AquaSwap is amazing for your cherry shrimp, your fish, your plants, stuff that us fish nerds kind of like, some of the little more rare stuff, a little more unique stuff, cool types of snails. Reddit AquaSwap is going to have really good deals on all that stuff. I have a video specifically on Reddit AquaSwap because it is a little bit overwhelming. If you're not familiar with Reddit in general, it could be a little bit off-putting, but it is well worth it, I promise you. Another one that I don't take advantage of too much, and it's not necessarily maybe the best time of year for it, but yard sales. I've had some luck on yard sales. My aunt is a big yard sailor, and she's seen some tanks there before. I've picked up, I think, 2 different deals at yard sales, but don't sleep on yard sales if it's the time of year and you got a nice little weekend morning. Get out early and look for some deals. Chewy says garage sales, thrift stores, trash for treasure. Yeah, there's definitely thrift stores. I actually have a connection with a store that they kind of go to auctions and they buy stuff. I bought a tank from them one time and I gave them my number. I said, hey, listen, you guys ever get any more fish stuff, more aquarium stuff, you give me a call and I'm your guy. Because they deal with, all sorts of different pictures and paintings and sculptures and whatever. But they occasionally come across, fish stuff at these auctions, wherever they go. And it's just a good connection to have. What are we looking for? What do I look for in a tank? What am I staying, what am I staying away from? I usually stay away from tanks that the person, I more react to the person rather than the tank itself, if that makes sense. Whereas I'll reach out to someone, and if they're kind of shady and they're not answering my questions about whether it leaks or if it's not holding water in the picture, it's not worth my time. That being said, Out of all the tanks I've bought used, and probably north of 30, 40 plus at least, every time I've asked someone, hey, does this leak or hold water? And they confirmed it didn't leak and it did hold water. Even if I didn't visually see it, I've never been screwed. One time I bought a tank that I knew was leaking and they informed me of that. I'm not saying you won't have as good a success as me. And I definitely recommend you look at the seals, definitely check for broken braces. That's one that, the picture may not show a broken brace on a larger tank. That's a big But I've talked to people, and when they tell me it doesn't leak, I maybe ask them how long ago they had it holding water, and I'm shooting 100% in terms of never had a tank leak on me that someone said didn't leak. Let's see, Warrior Planted Tank says, I picked up Miami Vice tank at a thrift store, stand and all, for $60. I'm not sure what Miami Vice tank is, but it sounds cool. I'm expecting, maybe it's white, maybe it's like should be in Miami. I don't know, but it sounds cool. And $60 for a whole setup sounds like a great deal. Jason Smith says, I live in a dead zone. It's all $80 for a 10-gallon with pink gravel. Yeah, man, it does. And I'm gonna get to that. I thought forever I lived in a dead zone. Not really a dead zone, but I thought, man, there's no deals out there. And I'm gonna explain to you why there may be more deals than you think. I'm not guaranteeing it, but if you live in an area and you're like, man, Ryan, I check Craigslist every week. I go on Craigslist every week and I never see a deal. Offer up every other week, I'm there. I kind of browse, I don't see it, right? I'm gonna get to that right now. Their answer is because the good deals don't last long. People like me are picking them up within an hour, okay? So unless you're looking at this stuff every day, and I know that sounds crazy, but if you actually want to get the best deals, you have to be persistent. You're at lunch break, 5 minutes here, looking around. After dinner, looking around, on the toilet maybe, looking around on Craigslist, okay, and wash your hands afterwards. But the thing is, if you're looking, you go, oh man, I look every week, there's never a good deal. There's probably deals that happen all the time, but the best ones aren't there for long, okay? So that's just the name of the game. You nailed it. It's my brackish water setup. Oh, okay, that sounds cool, man. I like that. Nice sleek white tank. So that's the biggest thing is if you're thinking, man, there's no deals by me, I promise there already is. You're just not seeing them, and as often as I check them, I miss them too. I miss them all the time. But I promise they happen. It's just the good ones don't last long, because if it's a decent deal, Fish Nerd's gonna pick it up. If it's a really good deal, then your aunt's gonna pick it up, aka anybody. It doesn't matter if they're a Fish Nerd or not. They see a free tank, anybody's gonna grab it, okay? Or a cheap tank. It might not be a Fish Nerd. It could just be, regular old person snatching it up. What do I look for? A dirty tank. I want to buy your dirty tank, okay? If I see a tank that's super clean and polished and they're asking a decent amount of money for it, chances are they might get that decent amount of money. If I see a tank that looks like some of the water's been evaporated and it hasn't been serviced in a while and the price is decent, that's the tank I want, because that's the tank that the person isn't going to be able to justify a large price, because it's a dirty tank that's going to need a lot of cleaning. It's going to need rehoming of the fish, and that's really important. Is the fish, okay? If you're buying a tank, know that you can get good deals usually buying people's tanks with their fish. Nobody wants to buy someone's setup, okay? If you're trying to sell a tank with your 2 angels and your 3 rasboras and your exact setup, the chances are the next person on the line does not want that setup. They don't want your decor. They don't want your fish. They don't want that. They want to do their own thing, okay? So when you're selling a tank, you get more money out of it if it's clean and empty, full of water, but if it's just empty, full of fish. Exact same thing, use it to your advantage when you're looking to buy a tank, okay? If someone's got a mismatch of fish that they can't get rid of, look to take that on. Now, really important, this being said, if you don't want those fish, you have to have a plan. Don't think, ooh, I just got a bunch of fish, now I can sell those too. It ain't gonna happen. Selling your used fish, selling just random fish, 2 angels here, some community fish there, a cichlid there, they don't sell well on Craigslist. I've tried it. Maybe in your area, you can give it a shot, but I end up giving away most of the fish that I get in my tanks. If I'm not gonna keep them, I end up giving them away, finding them a home. So I think that you do better buying a tank that's a little dirty, that has some fish that, maybe hard to get rid of, and just know that keep the tank potentially, but either give a good home to those fish in yourself or find a good home for them. Don't think you're going to make a bunch of money buying a tank and then selling the fish within it. It's not going to happen. Okay. Like I said, always ask if it holds water. I don't get too picky. If I'm selling a tank, I always have it holding water because it makes sense. If I'm buying a tank, I don't necessarily need to see it holding water. I know that sounds risky, but like I said, I'm someone who tries to read people, and if I trust them and I ask the question and they don't hesitate, I trust them. And like I said, I haven't been burned yet. That being said, definitely check the seals, definitely check the bracing. Look to buy tanks that are from someone's full setup. Okay, if you have a guy like me who's getting rid of a tank, okay, you're probably not going to get many extras. Now, I'm a nice guy and I have extra stuff, so if someone buying a tank for me, I usually throw in a pump or a net because I got tons of them. Okay, but the best deals I get are not from a guy who's got 6 tanks and just looking to get rid of one. Okay. The best deal is when someone only has 1 tank or a few and they're getting rid of everything, because that way you're going to get everything. If the guy or the woman is still keeping tanks, then you're probably not going to get those extras because they still need their fish food. They still need their chemicals. They still need all that stuff. And to me, that's all the extra accoutrements with a tank, right? Buying a tank is great, but getting those extra accoutrements are awesome. Excuse me. I got a little snack tonight. Got my classic water. I don't know about you guys, but busy week. Good week so far. Busy week. I'm a sucker for anything new. Anything new at like a fast food restaurant. I try not to eat fast food, but anything new at Checkers especially, that's my sweet spot, or Taco Bell. Or new like this grilled cheese and tomato soup chips. I had to buy them. They're probably disgusting, but if you see like a new thing, I have to try it once. I'm that sucker. And I love grilled cheese and tomato soup. It's that time of year. Let's see how disappointed I am. They're okay. They're okay. I'm usually disappointed more than not when I try new things, but I still have to try them. Sorry if that was super loud. Or am I making up words? I don't know. I don't know what words I'm making up. Another good thing to look for is someone that's moving. If someone's moving, like I said, typically they're going to have stuff that they're willing to, kind of part with or throw in with the deal. Okay? So if someone's moving, that's great. And then you get into some situations where you have a large tank that leaks. Now, I typically don't mess around with tanks that leak. I've attempted to reseal tanks before with mixed results. If you're someone that is open to resealing a tank, then you could potentially find great deals. I've seen 180s plus 220s, 125s for less than $100. They leak, but if you can, if you feel confident in your abilities to reseal them, then go for it. So if you're looking to buy a big tank, you can find usually ones that are leaking and then reseal them. Excuse me. You're reminding me of Mark Messier commercial. I think Mark Messier is he a hockey guy? Yeah, I don't know. Madfish Diva, hey, what's up? She says, please hit that like button. Yeah, guys, it really does help out if you hit the like button. If you've been listening to me blab for 20 minutes sitting there, I really do appreciate it if you hit the like button. We're going to get to, in about 10 minutes, I'll explain to you the merch giveaway, how you can win some free shirts. I want to talk about the super good deals. I released a video last week, I think it was, about a fish room I bought for $200. That time and one other time, I got a bunch of tanks from this gentleman. I think it was free, or really dirt cheap. And I offered to ship the guy a bunch of cherry shrimp. Every once in a while, you run into a deal that's like amazing. And you have mixed feelings. At the end of the day, like the deal that I got, it was actually a month or two ago, but from the video I posted where I bought the gentleman's fish room for $200, he had it listed for $500. I didn't see it at that point because I wouldn't have bought it for $500. He had reduced it to $200, and it was sitting there for like 3 weeks or a month, and no one was, getting onto it, and he needed someone to pick up all of it. It was a 180-gallon tank, 125-gallon tank. He had goldfish. It was a lot of stuff. And in talking with him, there was plenty of people that were offering, I can grab this one tank. I'll give you, a few bucks for this one tank and that. And in his situation, he needed to move everything. He needed to find a home for all of his tanks, all of his fish. He couldn't part it out. And that's why the deal for $200 was what it was. He lived kind of far out from Orlando proper, a good 40, 50 minutes out west, kind of by Claremont, if you guys are familiar with the area. And I scored big time, and I knew it was such a good deal that I told him, hey, when you're ready to get back in the game, he was downsizing. I was like, when you're ready to get back in the game and you have room for a tank, let me know. I'll hook you up for free, and we'll hopefully start a relationship that way. Because once again, I've said it before, I didn't get into this hobby for the people, but it's the people that keeps me in this hobby in terms of the relationships. Jason Smith says, I thought I had a deal, a 70-gallon and stand for 100, but it had a crack. Yeah, sometimes they're too good to be true, man. You'd be surprised how many, even though I've done this for a while and it's kind of like a thing that I really try to concentrate on. I bought some sour deals before. You don't realize, I mentioned the cracked brace. I bought tanks and totally didn't even realize it until I got home, and I was like, oh man, like, what were you thinking, dude? But they can be repaired, and as much as I've gotten good deals, I'm not complaining when one doesn't go as tremendous as I'd like. What to be concerned about? Like I said, I'm not as concerned about a leaky tank. I know most people's are probably like, leaky tank, that's the biggest thing to be worried about. I'm not as concerned about leaky tanks, but I don't trust heaters. I'm not a big heater fan in general, but especially used heaters from people's tanks, I typically don't use them, okay? Also, stuff like expired fish food or expired chemicals, I don't mess around with it. I don't care if it was free or thrown into a deal. It's not worth it. It's not worth losing my fish, feeding them some spoiled food or some, chemicals that are expired. I do, however, I'll utilize food that's open, that's, not expired. Same thing with chemicals, which is still risky. It's still risky even though it's open. But in things like heaters and especially older electronics, I've run into some electronics that look like, they were bought in the 80s or early 90s, like air pumps, filters, and it's not worth it. It's just not worth utilizing it at all. So I stay away from utilizing that stuff. Getting the advantage, talk a little bit about, how I kind of get the edge, right? Because I tell you kind of where I go and the different sites I use, and that you have to kind of get out there, be consistent, because if you think there's no deals, they're actually just getting bought out from underneath your nose, okay? And those people that have a tank out there for way overpriced, they just sit there for months and months and months. And I've seen tanks locally that, they've just been sitting there, not been bought for a year, and people have it listed. And hundreds of tanks have sold. But if you can get there first, be flexible. I have the advantage of working from home a lot, so I'm flexible with my time. If you are active on the weekends or, can get there right away. If you tell someone tomorrow, the next day, it's a lot of times it's too late. A lot of times people don't want to hold the tank for you, especially the better the deal, the quicker you have to act, because it's not going to last long, and people don't want to wait for you, because at the end of the day, most people flake. A lot of people flake. So I go out of my way to let them know that I'm serious. I'm coming, when I'm saying I'm coming. Luckily, I don't have a pickup truck anymore, but I had a pickup truck. So having the ability to pick up the stuff right away is definitely a bonus. If you have to wait until the weekend to borrow your friend's truck, that could be a deal breaker. David Machado says, I bought 4 heaters, 3 large pieces of driftwood, 1 wave maker, and 1 auto feeder for $60. That sounds like a good steal, man. That's a great point, actually, for bringing up the driftwood. There are certain times, and I've done it multiple times, where I will literally buy a tank for a piece of driftwood, okay? Driftwood, as you guys know, is not cheap. Really nice pieces of driftwood are coveted, and I've bought a full tank setup just to keep the driftwood and then clean the tank and relist it and maybe get my money back on the tank, but just to kind of get that driftwood, because driftwood brand new can be so expensive, and if it was already in someone's tank previously, it's already sinking, it's good to go. Maybe it's not leaching tannins if that's not your thing. So that's a great steal. Anytime I could pick up driftwood in a tank, that's That's an awesome deal in my book. So we talked about having a truck and being flexible, the early bird, getting the worm, negotiations. I'll talk to you a little bit about my negotiation strategy. And I don't start off with low ball offers. I rarely give low ball offers. I don't even typically reach out to the people that are the pie in the sky. Hey guys, you guys hear the dogs? They're playing like rough. I don't know if you guys hear that, but they're doing their thing back there. I don't reach out to the pie in the sky offers. If it's a reasonably priced tank and I want to shave a little bit off, like less than half, maybe like a third off or something, I'll make a reasonable offer. I'll try to explain to them that, I'm serious. I can pick it up, whatever it is, later that afternoon, right now, tomorrow, whenever I know I can be there. I'll let them know that. Hey guys, hey, relax. There's bones to go around, okay? So yeah, I don't know if she's like super meanie. That's my old grumpy 8-year-old puppy. She's fighting with the big actual puppy over bones, even though there's like 20 bones. They want the same one. Negotiating, don't lead with a lowball offer. I'll usually lead with a question, asking if it leaks, kind of start a conversation, and then let them know kind of where you're at and what you can offer, and cash, and pick it up right away. That tends to work best for me. If the deal is too good to be true, like on that deal where it's $200 for like a whole guy's fish room, I'm not going to negotiate. Like, there's no point in me going, oh, would you take $100? And it's like, dude, really? Come on. The steal is there. So if it's already an amazing deal, don't waste your time negotiating. Pick it up, right? Don't be greedy. If it's listed at a ridiculous price, you got to act now, because if you don't, someone else is going to. It's just kind of like you go into the fish store and you see these really cool fish and you're like, oh, okay, I'll come back tomorrow or maybe in a few days, and then boom, they're gone. Yeah, same thing with these good tanks. Don't play around. If the deal is good, you jump on it, okay? Do you ever see tanks at auctions in your area? That's a great question. I've only been to the monthly meeting auctions at my aquarium society, and I've seen some smaller tanks, like a 5 or a 10 or something like that, or something funky. I'm actually attending the annual auction, which is the big annual auction for the Tampa Bay Aquarium Society, November 16th, I believe, in Plant City. I'll be posting some stuff on the channel and Instagram as it comes closer. Hope to see you guys there that are local. And I'm hoping that there's some tanks there. It'd be interesting to see if there's some actual like setups or larger tanks at that annual auction. But as far as our monthly meeting auction, not really. Mostly plants and fish. Jay Aquafunk says, the only way I'll buy a tank out somebody's house if they have a nice silverware to throw in on the deal. You'd be surprised. Whenever I'm at someone's house buying a tank, I'm always ask if they have extras. Always ask if they have other tanks. It's happened multiple times where someone's got a rental property and they're selling the tank, and the tenant had another tank, and they're like, yeah, you can take that 10-gallon. I don't care. Like, they're not a fish person. They're just trying to get rid of it. So it never hurts to ask. Someone's moving. Hey, you got any more lights laying around or anything that you didn't think of potentially in the garage that you don't, like, oh yeah, I forgot I had that, and they usually just throw it in, or you throw them a few extra bucks for whatever the extras may be. It's definitely worth it. Let me explain to you guys a little bit about how to get some free Wild Fish Tank merch, some shirts I'm giving away, what you're going to need to do to make it fair for everyone. I don't want to make it so you have to be here right now. What I'm going to say is leave a comment after the stream is over. Just leave a comment below. You could say whatever you want. Pick what fish you want to be for Halloween. Just drop it in the comments below. And I'll pick during next live stream next Wednesday, which is going to be about fish foods. I'm going to talk about the different fish foods I keep in the fish cave, the live foods, frozen foods, pellet, flake, all the different types, the pros and cons I feel about them, which ones I think work and don't work for me, for which fish. But next week during that live stream, we'll give away 2 shirts. I'll just do a random comment picker. You don't need to be, like I said, present tonight or then, but just make sure you, number one, like this video, which I know you already guys have, right? You already like the video. But like the video, and then comment below after the live stream is over. I know it's a little bit weird, but you'll have a full week to do it. If you got to peace out soon and you're not going to stay for the whole thing, You just come back to this live stream once it's posted, leave a comment. It could be anything, but I'll definitely laugh if you tell me what fish you want to dress up as Halloween, and then I'll just do a random comment picker like I always have for past giveaways, and we'll get some shirts out to you guys. Let me see here. These are all the shirts I have right there. Let's take a look at some more advantages. Paying less the further away it is. Like I said, if you kind of live out in the sticks, or the further away I get from Orlando, the more I know that it's supply and demand. Okay, I look at it as kind of like a business. At the end of the day, it's buying, for a deal, supply and demand. If someone lives where no one else is, especially if they're like an hour and a half outside of a major city or something like that, it's going to be harder for them to move on from that, to get someone to come buy it. There's less demand in their area. So if I'm available, I've driven an hour and a half for a tank. As a matter of fact, the tank you see in this thumbnail that I got for $100, and that's not clickbait. I actually bought that tank. It was a tank, the stand, the lights. It actually came with a bunch of fish. I got that for $100. And that one actually drove 2.5 hours to get down in Fort Pierce. It was actually listed on OfferUp in my area. Reached out to the person. They said, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I used to live there, but I meant to post it where I live now," which ended up being like 2.5 hours away. I said, "You know what? It's still a good deal. I'll see you tomorrow morning. I'll be there." So I woke my butt up at like 7 o'clock in the morning. I got a video on it. It's one of my first videos. Like I said, the tank haul trips and kind of doing everything on a budget was kind of my start. Here, making the videos on YouTube. So that's why it's definitely, the subject is, I'm not saying I know the most about it, but it's definitely something that I, close to my heart. And this knowledge has helped me out, and it's the reason why I'm even here. If I wasn't able to get all those tanks for such a good deal, I don't think I'm still here. I don't think I'm still in this hobby. I don't think I have as many tanks as I do if I wasn't able to, get such a good deal. If you could be a fish, what would you be? Barbara Walters turned 90 last month. Okay, I'm not sure what the Barbara Walters reference is. If I could be a fish, what would I be? Ooh, I don't know. I could be a male bristlenose pleco, so I could freak out Jay all the time and hang upside down on driftwood. I think that'd be a decent life. But yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I'll go with a super red male bristlenose pleco, so I can hang upside down on wood and freak Aquafunk out. What's up, Ray, Biker Aquarist? Hey, Fishy Biz Aquatics. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Another advantage, groups and friends. Now, this may seem counterproductive. Why would you want to work with people in your area? It's like competition, right? Yes and no. Especially in my area, Orlando is a pretty big, town. I'm not always able to get to tanks. I could be busy. So my group of friends is usually pretty cool about, sharing. If I see something in someone else's area, let them know about it, and vice versa. Or if maybe it's in my area, but I can't get to it right away. Okay. Also, when I get tanks and I buy a tank and I got some fish, typically I offer them up to my fish friends for free first. Hey, listen, guys, I got, and you kind of know, like I know I got my angelfish guys, and I got my Libera guys, and I got my, community tank guy. And I'm like, hey, man, you got room for this? It's never like a obligation, but it's always, hey, listen, you're not going to offend me, but, it's good to network. Can you take this fish off my hands? It's a win-win. If they can't, that's cool. But there's definitely a benefit to, having a group of friends and sharing the information. I'm a big proponent in, sharing the knowledge. Like I said, I can't get to every deal. So it's good to see my fish friends, get to some as well. Chewy says ghost knife fish. I like that. That's very that's the fish you want to be for Halloween. That's a good one, I think. Question for everyone in the chat: fixing to have a hip replacement. Have shown my kids and wife how to feed the fish. They are not comfortable on water changes. What do I do when I can't do them? Well, first off, Greg, man, I apologize. I mean, not apologize, but hopefully speedy recovery from your hip replacement. I would recommend drop down the feeding. I'm not sure how long you're going to be out for. If it's something where it's like a few weeks, you may be able to get away with feeding much more sparingly and then doing water changes much more sparingly as a result. Also, potentially do either a little heavier water change or maybe a little extra water change right before you are, out of it for a while. That way they just kind of get a little extra head start. I wouldn't do anything too crazy out of the ordinary. Don't go do like a 90% water change and then you throw everything off. But yeah, depending on how long you're going to be out, do that. Mr. B's Fish and Sting says buy a pill dispenser, divide the food into that. That's good. Be thorough. Make a checklist of all the different the foods and stuff. If you want Ryan to see your question, oh yeah, thanks Liz. If you have a question, just at me. Yeah, I hope you guys see someone said snow. I got some friends up in Detroit, up in Michigan. It was snowing there today. So if you guys are up in that part of the country, man, I envy the first snow of the season, but I don't envy digging my car out of the snow. I grew up in Long Island and I went to college up in Albany, New York, and I spent many of winters in college, digging my car out of the snow and having to park on one side of the street and the other in the city because the plows and stuff. Candy has snow. You're in Montana, right? You guys got snow like 11 and a half months out of the year. But I definitely missed that first winter snow, but definitely not the the other things that come with it. That's for sure. Let's talk about like keeping tanks versus flipping tanks. I typically do a little mixture of both. Depending on whether you're going to keep a tank or flip a tank is usually how I decide like how much I can pay for it. If it's something I want and I'm going to keep and add to the fish cave, it's worth it. If I'm looking at something where I'm buying it, like I want that driftwood and I don't need the tank, but I really want that driftwood, I gotta have a price in mind. I gotta know, okay, I can get this much for the tank, so I can buy it for maybe $200, knowing that I could sell it for $160 or maybe $200 again without the driftwood, and that way I've only theoretically paid like $40 for the driftwood, or maybe if all goes well, maybe I didn't even pay anything for the driftwood. I can buy it for $200 and sell it for $200 without the driftwood potentially. So you kind of do these numbers ahead of time. This is a big shout out. A lot of this comes from my cousin, who is a really big car nerd. He's into like the late 60s, third generation Chevy Novas. And I spent some time living with him 5-6 years ago and watched him kind of buy different cars, keep some, resell some. And we're talking on a much larger scale, like, a lot bigger numbers in terms of the cash. But I apply the same principles to fish tanks. If I'm buying something that I want, to keep, like if I see a tank with a Fluval 110 on it, and I'm buying a tank just for a Fluval 110, which I've done before. If I think I could buy that tank and then sell it for the same amount without the Fluval 110, I'll do it, right? Now it's a free Fluval 110 or a free driftwood. Now, of course, I've spent time to go pick up the tank. I've had to find homes for these fish, which once again, you're probably not going to make any money on. You're not going to be able to sell a bunch of fish on Craigslist, some random fish. It's not going to happen. And you've spent your time and energy cleaning the tank. Typically, you're buying a dirty tank, and if you're going to sell it quickly and get your money back, you need to clean it. So you got to spend an afternoon cleaning some tanks, getting a little wet. So you put a little elbow grease, which I'll put elbow grease in all day long for, a free Fluval 110 or a free piece of driftwood, etc. But that's kind of my mindset going into it. There's plenty of setups that I bought and keep everything. But in the case where I'm looking to buy something and then keep portions of it and then sell the others, I have to know what I'm going to be able to get for it, or else I'm going to end up paying way too much for that piece of driftwood, for that Fluval 110, or for whatever it is. For maybe it's the fish. There has been rare occasions where I bought a tank because the fish were cool. Typically, when you're buying a tank, you're not going to find the coolest fish, just your typical community fish. But every once in a while, the African butterfly cichlid, not the African butterfly fish, but the West African butterfly cichlid that I have, I actually bought a breeding pair in a tank. And I saw this tank, and I was like, oh, there's some cool fish in here. And one of the reasons why I bought that tank, it came with a bunch of cool anubias and a bunch of cool fish. So I bought that tank just for those purposes, and I ended up selling that tank for about the same that I paid for it. After I cleaned it, after I spent time, making it look pretty again, but I was able to, get those plants and those fish for free, essentially. Oops, I'm messing with The wrong buttons there. Let me scroll back through the chat here. We got some questions. When you buy used tanks, let me see here. When you buy used tanks, how do you take care of parasites, seed shrimp, etc.? Whenever I buy a used tank, I break it down. Even if it has fish, I'll take those fish out of that tank, acclimate them to a tank I already have set up as a quarantine tank, and I empty that tank. I thoroughly clean it. I typically don't use any soaps or bleach, but I will use Barkeeper's Friend vinegar and Barkeeper's Friend, and I believe I've used hydrogen peroxide as well on some algae. But the most aggressive thing I use pretty much is Barkeeper's Friend, which comes like in a powder, almost like Comet used to come in when I was a kid. Does Comet still exist? That powdery cleaner. But I just plop it on a rag and kind of clean the tank. So every tank used that I get, I go through that process, then I fill it up in the garage and do a water test on it. Whether I'm going to keep it or sell it, or whatever I'm going to do, that's the process I go through. Long Island, New York, my favorite hockey team in the New York Islanders. Okay, I'm a big sports guy. Hockey is, I don't follow hockey a ton, but hey, I'll support New York sports. What is your favorite saltwater fish? Ooh, that's an interesting question, Eric. I don't know if many of you know this, but before I kind of went crazy into this freshwater fish keeping hobby a few years ago, I really wanted a saltwater tank before I even had freshwater tanks. I'm a big fan of the symbiosis, right? So things that work with each other. So probably like a clownfish and an anemone, or there's some shrimps and I think gobies that work together. So I don't know if I have a favorite fish, but if and when I were to set up a saltwater tank, I would like to have it incorporate a lot of symbiosis, like some fit, like the clownfish with the anemone, those type of examples. I just like kind of watching nature work and do its thing. Also a little sidetrack too, but just on the subject of watching nature do its thing, I'm setting up a tank at my office, at my desk. I won a tank for free at the Fancy Guppy Club. Was it last weekend or 2 weekends ago now? It's only 3 gallons or 2.7 gallons, so I didn't know what to do with it and brought it into work. Got the approval to set it up on my desk, so I'll probably do a little video about that. But I'm spreading the fish keeping hobby to my work now. I'm infecting all my coworkers with fish and shrimp. So I'm excited for that. Let's see here. It's hot as hell in Florida, David. Yeah, man, it was 90s. It was the 90s. Went over to my uncle's house last weekend, and they were like, "Hey, you want us to cook some chili?" I was like, "Yeah, that'd be cool," but it's like 90 degrees out. So yeah, it's still hot here in Florida. Thank you for the super. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Michael Liam. Very much appreciated. Thank you. No question, but I'll answer Joe Coffey's question. Any tips for buffing, polishing out scratches from glass? Used tanks are often imperfect. Yes, they are. Typically, when a tank is holding water, it will show less of the scratches. I haven't gone as far as to like buff any scratches out. Like I said, the only thing I can say is the Barkeeper's Friend tends to get a lot of like the algae and stuff out of those scratches. A lot of times I'll get a deeper scratch, and then like algae will kind of grow into it and get and make it even look worse. So I find that even though Barkeeper's Friend isn't going to necessarily buff out your scratch, it'll potentially make it look a little better, whereas there's not algae kind of within that scratch, if that makes sense. Ryan, you have some beautiful dogs. Love me some fur babies. Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm lucky to have these two monsters. That's what I was doing right before the live stream here. That's why I'm a little disheveled, didn't shave or anything. I was taking the big boy on a walk. He's an 80-pound monster who turns 2 next month, but he thinks he's a lap dog, and he's got energy just exuding out of him. So he gets, we have a fenced-in backyard. We're lucky to have that, but also walks every day. Like usually 4, if not all 5 days during the week. Sometimes morning and evening, and then dog parks on the weekend. We're lucky to have some cool dog parks down here. He likes the one where there's actually a dog park with the lake kind of involved, so he can like run just right for the lake. It's pretty neat. He loves the water. Another question here from Chewy. With your interest in native fish, do you have any interest in other native fish populations and other fish? Great question, Chewy. The answer is yes. I haven't had the opportunity yet to go collecting in other states. I hope next year to possibly attend the NANFA convention. I mentioned it last week. It's going to be, I believe, in South Carolina next year in March. Excuse me. So I hope to make it up there. This camera's not picking me up all of a sudden. There we go. I think it's a little better. So I hope to get up there. I know there's some really cool fish just north of me, just a little bit north of me, in like, you know, the Carolinas, Tennessee, Kentucky. There's a few people I know that follow the channel and I communicate with on Instagram that really catch some awesome darters. I mean, there's some cool darters and shiners that are like located in kind of like the southern but central United States. Unbelievable. And what's cool about those, a lot of them are they're, you know, cool water fish. You don't need a heater in your tank, so you can kind of do you know, a fairly simple tank with no heater. If you have time and space and can reseal a tank but a broken one, then wait for this one for the same size. I learned to cut the glass and build new ones from old glass. That's really cool. I would love to get into like cutting glass. I think I'm going to start potentially with cutting some glass lids. You know, I've seen some videos out there where people have been, you know, actually cutting glass for lids or having it cut. So I want to potentially get into that. Right now I use those plastic lids, like the greenhouse stuff, which works decent, but glass lid is definitely awesome. Hopefully there's no gators in the lake in that dog park. Yeah, there's a sign that says beware of gators, and don't get me wrong, I'm always kind of keeping an eye out, but I've been going there for years. I've never heard of anything. I'm sure there's gators in that lake. It's a big lake. Typically what happens here in Florida is if there's any type of gator that's being a nuisance, you know, it gets reported and removed fairly quickly. That being said, you know, you're never a guarantee. Never a guarantee. Let me see here. Going back to just keeping and flipping, you know, the razor blade. Another thing I use is a razor blade in terms of getting the stuff out there. Usually between a razor blade and the barkeeper's friend, it'll kind of get most of the stuff out. Every once in a while, you run into these old tanks that have like this super haze. There's been 2 different tanks that I've run into where I just, no matter what I could do, I soaked it in vinegar. I soaked paper towels in vinegar and laid them over there overnight and then try to scrape it. And I think these things were just super shot. So if you see a tank that's very hazy, potentially that's another reason to maybe, you know, hold back, because I've had some good success. Cleaning dirty looking tanks, but there has been a few that were that super haze that did not come out. The banded killifish population is endangered in Canada, and we are not allowed to keep them. It will be interesting for you to try to keep them as they have healthy populations there. Okay, banded killifish. I'll have to take a look at that. Not a fish that I am familiar with, but I will definitely have to take a look at that. I would love to watch Lacey's Place go collecting with Ryan. That would be awesome. Is Lacey's Place here in Orlando or in Florida here? Yeah, I don't know. That'd be cool. I live in Florida, so be careful. Yeah, always looking out, always being careful. Let's see. David Machado says, I cut my lids a few months back. It's pretty straightforward. Bought everything at Home Depot. Yeah, I like that, man. I like, you know, I'm not a handy guy. If you guys watched the live stream where we talked about the fish room, I'm definitely not a handy guy. I wouldn't consider myself handy by any means, but I love learning. Definitely love learning, and would very much like to, you know, do that and get that under my belt. The 75 I got used does not have a center brace. Has anyone seen this before? And if so, where can you find a lid? Yeah, I have noticed that there's some 75s and 55s out there that I'll look, I'm like, oh, there's no center brace, it's broken. But if it's an older tank, some of that thicker glass, they never came with one, so it's actually fine. You can look and usually see on the plastic rim if it was actually broken and it's no longer there, then you may have an issue. But if it was never built with one, then you should be fine. In terms of finding a lid for one, the one I have right now, the person before me had made this like makeshift piece of wood that it's not a brace because it's just sitting there. It's not actually bracing anything. It's not nailed. It's just sitting there. but it allows for a center brace, whereas a lid can now kind of rest on it. So potentially cut a piece of wood that just sits there where a brace would. You don't have to attach it to anything. It's not going to act as a brace. However, it'll act as just something for your 2 glass lids to sit on. You can maybe give that a shot. Hey, what are your fish goals for the upcoming year? That's a great question, Avery Birds and Company. My fish goals for the upcoming year are to breed out some of the 10 strains of guppies that I got at the guppy auction last week. I'm going to be doing a fish room tour in the next week or two. That'll be very centric around guppies and some apistogrammas I've got. Very excited that I picked up 2 different species of apistos recently and hope to breed those as well as the different strains of guppies. There's actually a strain of guppy back in this 29 gallon. That's actually the ones I posted on the Instagram. They're the ice blue German double sword, yada, yada, yada. Really cool strain, but I hope to get those cranking. So far, I've had at least 2, if not 3 different of the strains drop fry for me, and a bunch of other females are looking super, super boxy. So I'd like to breed those out and just do some more tours, meet more people, get more involved with communities. I really, really like getting involved with the Tampa Bay Aquarium Society. Had a blast at the Florida Guppy Association auction. Really looking forward to the annual auction for the Tampa Bay Aquarium Society November 16th. I'm considering going to, there's a beta show that's sanctioned by the International Beta Congress, and that's going to be in Clearwater, Florida, I believe this weekend. I'm not 100% sure I'm going there, but definitely want to get out to more events. I mentioned the NANFA. Hope to travel next year to some of the aquatic experience, Aquashella, stuff like that. Hopefully meet some of you. So a lot of breeding aspirations, and then just want to kind of just delve more into the community and the people. Let's see what else we got here. Polycarbonate twin maul clear makes good lids if you can find it. Yes, I think you had mentioned that. I saw that. I think Tom over at Team Aquatics uses that. I saw them after you had mentioned that. I saw them in a video. It looks much more thicker and sturdier. So there's definitely a lot of good options with these DIY lids. Something I want to get into. My mistake. I thought she was in Florida. Okay, maybe we're talking about Lacey's place. Yeah, the tank has a sticker that it was made in '92. Yeah, if it was made in '92, it could be one of those thicker glass. Yeah, look, exactly what Mr. B said, man. They don't make them like they used to. Some of those older tanks, older equipment in general, just they made it good, man. They made it really good. Lots of really cool hobbyists that have different interests in Florida. Yeah, man, it's really cool to be a part of. I know there's like the San Francisco Aquarium Society. I think it's like the oldest in the United States. The Tampa Bay one, it's only like 26 years old, maybe 27, something like that. But seeing as where it's located in Tampa, if you guys aren't familiar, that's where Seagrass Farms is. They supply a lot of your fish stores with fish. They import from all over the world. There's 5D Tropicals. There's a bunch of plant farms down here. And a lot of them are located in that Tampa area. There's universities that do studies on stuff. There's the high school there has an aquaculture program. I mean, gosh, if you're a fish nerd, Tampa is a place to be for sure. So the Tampa Bay Aquarium Society, by virtue of that, tends to have a lot of knowledgeable people. I've mentioned it before, but Bill Shields is a legend in this hobby. He travels and talks at different aquarium clubs around the country. I'm very lucky to rub shoulders with him every single meeting. And there's a bunch more members as well that are extremely knowledgeable. Chewy says the Boston is the oldest. Okay. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think I heard San Francisco is one of the oldest. Maybe it's not the oldest. But no, it's just, if you guys are in an area where you have an aquarium club, definitely check it out. Research on resetting up an old tank, plus Corey of the Co-op's Day Off Random Garden Projects video did it for me. What triggered your multiple tank syndrome, and which of your tanks are solid hands off never sell keepers? Okay, really good question. MTS Anonymous. I'm gonna say, oof. Corey definitely helped get me into the hobby. I've been into pets and fish and stuff like that on and off since a kid. My buddy and I set up a tilapia breeding project in my garage, around the time that I was wanting to get into a saltwater tank. And once that kind of all got shut down, I actually sold off all those tanks. All the tilapia tanks were sold off. And then it was like 6 months later or so for Christmas, I got a 55-gallon tank and kind of went back into it. But I think it was the breeding aspect, like the plants, just seeing Corey's video where he built his rack system and kind of challenging myself to be a little bit handy. That was definitely part of it. And then now, having, seen some success on YouTube and being part of this community, being able to, breed some of these plecos, which Kevin Sproul says, how's the pleco breeding central going? It's going amazing. We have super reds and calicos and lemon blue eyes all growing up. They're breeding very regularly. I'm very happy with the rate at which I'm able to get them to grow. And everything is going really well. I want to mention once again, for you guys that are new here, we're going to be giving away some Wild Fish Tanks merch for the 20,000 subscribers. And all you need to do is, after the stream is over, drop a comment down below. You can be any comment. It's only one entry per person, so just leave one comment. You can let me know what fish you want to be for Halloween or anything else. But if you want to make me laugh, let me know what fish you want to be for Halloween. You don't have to be present to win. Just make a comment, and then next week at 8 p.m. Wednesday, Eastern Time, we're going to have another live stream talking about fish foods, the pros and cons, which I like to use, which I don't like to use, which fish my plecos like, which fish, which foods my plecos like, and the guppies like, etc. And we'll be giving away two different t-shirts. I'm gonna start wrapping it up here, guys. Hope you learned something. Best of luck out there in your fish keeping journey and with some used tanks. If you want some of the fish, David Machado says, want some of those calicos. They're all for sale at wildfishtanks.com. Definitely check out Dan's Fish next. He is giving away some fish, some apistos, I believe. And he's also getting some Shark Tank thing. I don't know. Shark Tank's one of my favorite shows. So definitely go check out Dan's Fish. And I think you can potentially become an investor. I don't know. But really appreciate you guys joining me. As always, see you guys next Wednesday. Stay positive and stay passionate.